Hi everybody, I'm here with my parents, Steven and Sharon Myers, and we're going to talk about Cookson Hills Christian Ministries. And I was just going to start off with saying that they worked there for 17 years, right? Almost 17 years? Okay. Could you explain to everybody what Cookson Hills is?
It is it's a child care facility for children that can't stay in their home or with their parents for a multitude of different reasons. As you can imagine, the different reasons that are caused. And it's not your typical orphanage, because the typical orphan, what we think of as an orphan, is less common than a kid from a broken home.
True.
So most of the kids, there's a lot of them that were from single parents. There's a lot of them that were from situations where the grandparent was parenting the child, and then trouble came about because of the I don't want to say inadequate, but difficulties that was caused by those situations. And it's a mission and a ministry to help those kids.
So just a place, a safe haven of sorts.
Yeah, and to bring some healing, and to bring, because sometimes they only know their life, and they assume that that's normal. And sometimes the brokenness of their lives, that being in Cookson helps them to see a different alternative as being normal, as being possible.
And what made you guys want to work at Cookson?
Well, we kind of felt called. We looked at doing foster care in Minnesota, and went to the orientation and saw that we didn't feel like that would fit us. Steve had gone down to Cookson Hills, 3 or 4 times on short-term work mission trips. And just thought it was something that we could do, could help.
It was a way to leave a better legacy than some other things. And it was also, for me, it was becoming aware of the kinds of kids that were in care there, and the lack of what I had gotten grown up with, a healthy home family. I just felt like they deserved better. Okay. And I wanted to, it kind of stuck in my craw that they did not have the opportunity that I had. So we felt called to do this, and it was an opportunity.
Could you give people just like a sense of what like a daily life would be like there at Cookson? Because I know you guys had different duties at Cookson.
Right, and it varied throughout the years also, just depending on what our extra job was besides the house parenting, and depending on the dining hall schedule. Of course, we ate in a communal dining hall.
And our job was that we were house parents, and then we had other duties besides that. Typically the dad in the house parents had some job, but also the mother could have some additional responsibilities. Like there were times when Sharon worked in the clothing store as one of the workers there. I was a mechanic, did grounds work, but we lived in a home where we had several kids that were placed into our home with our biological children. They became part of our family dynamic, and we tried to be a family and to give these kids a sense of what a family environment was like. So it was a little bit more I think it was made a little bit more difficult by the fact that we ate in a communal dining area rather than eating in the home. But we did some of our meals in the home, and that made it, I think that made that more home-like, more family-like.
When we first started, breakfast at the dining hall was, I believe, 6:30 in the morning. And then, of course, then the kids got ready for school, did chores, and went to school, came home to eat lunch at the dining hall. Of course, every family at the dining hall had their set chores to do, and then they would go back to school. Kids would come home after school, the ones that didn't have sports, so would work on homework or whatever, the little ones could play outside. And then supper time, that's when the dads came home from their secondary jobs and ate supper at the dining hall, and then it was either homework or playing outside or
Being a family.
being a family, until
So-
bedtime.
So like you're saying that it gave them a sense of family when you guys could have been home, as opposed to like
More of a sense of,
institutional.
more of a
feeling?
sense of family, although the dining hall, we sat together around a big, large round table
Yeah.
as a family.
But it made it harder to talk, it was louder,
Yeah.
it was noisy, you had 5 other families in the same dining hall. And it was just, and then the kids didn't have a chance to be part of the cooking if you're eating in a dining hall all the time. And so there's, your pros and cons.
To both of us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And what would you say is the toughest part that you can remember when working at Cookson?
For me, the toughest part was when my own children got hurt from other children from other children. So that was very hard to deal with, and it was enough to make you wonder, why are we here?
Are we doing any
Should
good?
we stay here? Yeah. So
I think for me, one of the tough parts was to be the recipient of emotions from these kids, because they could not display their emotions towards their natural parents for whatever reason. And so often they were angry about being there, and the anger would come out towards us when we were not really the problem. And so we kind of had to swallow that and understand it, and that was difficult. And then you had to help them through problems. And they almost, kids that grow up in a non-functioning family, it's almost always problematic. And then we dealt with those problems as a way to help them try to grow. But those were the difficult moments, I think.
A lot of displacement, I guess. What it sounds like from just the way they were feeling.
displaced anger.
Yeah.
Right.
Towards us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the whole situation of why they were there.
And they would act out
Yeah.
because of that, because of the emotions that they had, kids aren't versed in processing their emotions and being able to articulate them, and so they would act out. And sometimes those acting out would be towards us, and sometimes it would be towards our children. And that was hard to take.
And this next question is just, what made you leave? Is that a part of why you guys did leave?
I think a bigger part of the reason why we left was the fact that it had been so many years, and it does wear on you.
I was getting very tired. You're up. Our house was kind of unique. We always had age range from very young to teenagers to, basically seniors. So it seemed like we were always going opposite directions as far as taking the older kids to sporting games. and I would usually stay home with the younger ones, and just
And the younger ones were a lot of care.
a lot,
A lot more care.
very time consuming, very,
Needed more attention, needed more upbringing, and it does wear on you. It's not an easy job. It's more stressful, and that stress does take its toll over time. I think there's a natural reason why God made parents to work themselves out of the job after so many years, because it does get to where you're tired. And I think that's also why when we saw situations where grandparents were raising the children of their children, those grandparents got easily tired and ended up where we needed to help, help them with those kids. I think it was just time. We didn't leave because there was animosity I don't think in any real form with any of the other staff, any of the administration.
we left on good terms, and we were glad of that, and we let people know up front that we were winding down, and we had 3 seniors at the time, and
and we were due to
were going into 9th grade, so we thought that was a really good transitioning time.
we would have had a whole new crop of kids, and new kids always brought in more stress into the dynamic, and that stress had to kind of work itself out. And it would have been really difficult it would be almost like restarting by and large. And when you're already worn down, that's something that's hard to face. And I think that was part of it too.
I do remember the new kids had shadow. Which could you explain to me what shadow is?
It's the first 30 days. It's more of a time for them to kind of bond, so that they
with the house
parents. So you get to know them, they get to know you. They pretty much follow you around for 30 days, except they did start
go to
school.
school.
Yeah. So it's just, and at that 30 days, they do not have contact with their natural family either. So, but we have contact with their natural family during that time and can tell them, give them updates and how things are going.
Right. It wasn't so much a penalty for them, although a lot of it felt like it was, but it was a time of being able to get close to them. As from the house parent child relationship, it was a time to try to start that from scratch. So just a lot of time was necessary to be together. They felt like, I'm in trouble. I have to stay with a parent all the time. Well, it really wasn't.
And has your view of Cookson Hills changed at all since moving from there? And I know it's been a couple years and there's been some distance.
I don't think it has. I mean, people ask, would you go back? It's like, well, no, I was tired. That's why I quit. So I wouldn't. We're even older now, so.
I think it was rewarding while we were there. I think we felt that, and when we felt like it was time to leave and we left, we felt good about what we did while we were there. I don't know if that really answers your question per se. I do think we have a good relationship with them still.
I think we feel about the people we worked with that they became family.
Right.
They became very close.
Yes, that was the case because we were going through difficulties and hardships together. We were raising kids and it was stressful for all concerned. And so coming together with that, we felt like You know, anytime you go through hardship with someone, there's a bond
Yeah.
that it grows, and it's greater than normal. Just
Yeah, and
acquaintance.
it's just a very unique situation where, especially when we first started, where you work together, you live together, you go to church together. I mean, you were together all the time. You ate together, and of course that changed later on. And then I think you did feel kind of that disconnect when people were going their separate ways. And so,
What would you tell new house parents if you had the chance as advice?
don't take things personally, that when kids are getting mad at you and yelling at you.
Yeah. They'll take their stuff out on you. It's not you. You didn't do X wrong. You won't ever, and I would tell them, you won't ever feel like you're doing this perfectly right. Because each kid is presenting their own difficulties to you. I kept thinking I could always do better. Because I'm kind of a perfectionist, and I felt like I never really did it right. But that's just part of the nature of the job. And also, you have to have God as your ally in this. You cannot do this by yourself. You cannot do it in your own power. I felt like we needed his help all the time, and had to keep asking him for it. To go without that, to do this, I want to say in a secular way. I don't know how you could. I think it was, you need God as your ally and as your helper. And you're gonna you better get close to him, because you're gonna need it. And the other thing was it will stress your marriage, and your marriage needs to be strong. If you go in there, if you were to go in there as a newlywed, I would not recommend it, because your marriage, you need to get strong with each other. You need to come to terms about probably some parenting issues because she and I differed on how we parent. And we had to kind of come back to getting to a place of agreement. And really, we had to settle upon her methodology, because my methodology of the way that I was raised didn't really fit there. And so we had to go with hers. And that was a big period of adjustment. And I would say to the people that are coming in as house parents, you're gonna have to adjust. You're gonna have to do things differently.
Well, and also you need to view each child as an individual, as a unique person. You're not gonna be able to cookie cutter these kids. You're not gonna be able to treat them all exactly the same, but just that they are precious, they are important.
And the other thing is, you will not be able to see difference that you made in that child's life for years. Don't look for a quick fix, and don't look for quick results. The results are always in God's department anyway. If you try to think, this child will turn around in 6 months, you might see a difference in behavior, but the heart change takes a lot longer and needs to be in there and growing. It's like, another staff member that was there while we were there said, these kids aren't microwave kids, they're crock pot kids. It's going to take a long time, and you're going to have to be patient, more patient than you're going to want to be. It's going to take a long time.
And sometimes you have to change too. We had a boy kind of in the first couple of years who was one of the I know everything type boys, and I had to, okay, I know what he's doing, but I had to change myself, and we had a good, wonderful relationship, and
Mhm.
he loved you when you were born.
And, you know, you might have kids that never really reciprocate the love to you. And you might have ones that do,
Mhm.
and bless them. You know, those are God's gift, I think. But other ones won't.
Yeah.
But that might totally change later in life. One blessing that we've discovered is Facebook has allowed us to connect with kids. We never knew initially, when kids left, we never knew what happened to them. They would just like disappear.
Mhm.
But Facebook has allowed us to reconnect with some of those kids, and some of them, it's only much later that they begin to appreciate, you know, some of the things that you were able to try or even try to accomplish in their lives.
And I'd say to new house parents, some kids will come and they're gonna be there for a long time and you're gonna really get connection. Some kids, you're always gonna be Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so. You're never gonna be mom and dad, and that's okay.
Yeah, be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
You cannot be a control freak.
yeah. If you try to control how it's going to work, it's going to be a struggle for you.
Mm-hmm.
Let God take care of the results. You try to be faithful, and you try to love, and it's hard because some of them will not accept it, and some of them will hurt you back. Another staff member that was there early on when we were there said, you know when you're doing this job right because your heart feels like an old beat up football, because it will hurt, but you can keep going by the grace of God.
And what advice would you give any new children coming in?
That's a lot harder for us to say because we haven't walked in their shoes. But,
I would say, again, don't take it personally.
yeah.
The fact that you're here is not, it may be, you've got a second chance. Use it. Don't look at it as a prison. Look at it as an opportunity. Look at it as an adventure that you could take and do something and grow with it.
It seems like the kids who had the positive attitude were the ones who did the best. They took advantage of what the education that they were offered and the counseling.
And I would also tell them a lot of what's happened to you in your life up to this point is not your fault. And it's not God saying to you, you are not worthy. A lot of that, the kids that we could get across to them, the message that they were fearfully and wonderfully made. Those kids that began to understand that God had made them wonderful, despite what they had been through. Those were the kids that could go on then and grow and become more in life than they would have had they never came to Cookson. It's an opportunity. Use it and grow. And it'll be something that you're not used to. It's going to feel strange because you're doing something new. It always feels strange.
And probably scary.
And the structure will be way more than you want, and maybe way more than you used to. It will be different. That's okay. You can do it, and you can go through it, and you can be better for doing it.
Well, thank you guys for talking with me. I know that talking on camera can be scary, but I really appreciate it. This is my first interview, and I just want to give people as much perspective as possible because it's something that's not generally talked about. I know a lot of people I tell, they have no idea what it is, and it's not far from where we live. It's right by Little Kansas, Oklahoma.
And you need to see it.
You do.
Yeah.
And you need to be around it and experience it. But then you do need to talk to people and say, and ask them, what was it like? Because then you put the two together. Because it's like nothing you've seen, but it's also like nothing you've experienced.
And everybody is gonna have a different experience because everybody's unique and different themselves. So it's not one size fits all.
And that's the purpose of these interviews. But you guys are my first, then I really thank you for stepping out on the way.
You're welcome.